It is my pleasure to welcome you to the studio session at the Sagar Manthan, the Great Oceans Dialogue, which we are calling Arteries of Civilization, how inland waterways are key to our past as well as our future. Water per se has been the cradle of civilizations for centuries. It has sustained civilizations, it has propelled economics, and it has also connected cultures. But as the world goes through complex challenges of the current day and for the future, uh, inland waterways are emerging as solutions that may drive logistics and trade, and maybe which can also move people. To discuss this topic, we have with us two very interesting experts. We have with us Mr. Vijay Kumar, who has the onerous task as the chairperson of the Inland Waterways Authority of India, to kind of unlock the potential of this largely untapped sector in India. And from Netherlands, one of the countries with the most advanced waterway systems, is Nicole van Spronsen, who is the project manager at the Marine Research Institute, or MARIN, in Netherlands. And she, of course, brings in the rich expertise of her country, and also as to how Europe on the whole has dealt with this topic. So if we can, begin by looking at the past. We know that what is the contribution of inland waterways to civilization, to humanity as such, as it has developed over centuries. So be it the intricate canals of the Netherlands or the sacred rivers of India, they have really contributed to the civilizations and life as it has grown. So what is it that we can learn from the past? We can preserve this legacy as we try to modernize for the future. So maybe we can start with you, Ms. Nicole.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you that I get the floor to represent MARIN, the Maritime Research Institute of the Netherlands. Yes, I'm from the Netherlands. And the waterway systems in Europe are connected, and the freight transport is from earlier times always been over our rivers, through our rivers. And that was the past, and it's still going on. And we work together with the European countries. We have the Rhine corridor, and we still have freight transport in the Netherlands, but we make connections with each other, and we make I'm just looking for the word. We make connections, and we make the political connections so that we have the same rules and the same ships sailing in all over Europe.
So there's some kind of a standardization in terms of the fleet and the kind of the platforms they operate on?
Yes, that's true. Yep. So the standardization of the fleets in Europe helped us a lot to transport the freight through Europe.
Right. And so Vijay, if we're going to you, to my question on what we can learn from the past, this great history and the legacy of waterways that even India enjoyed, and what can we learn from it as we try to modernize for further?
So first of all, many thanks, Dhaval, for this opportunity. So as you rightly mentioned, the rivers, the canals, they have been the cradle of civilizations all over the world, including in India. And it has a very rich history of using these waterways and these canals, both for passenger transportation as well as for cargo transportation. In fact, if we go really long back, there is an archaeological evidence of Lothal being there as a maritime port. And even if we don't go that far back, maybe about 300 years back, so there is recorded evidence of movement of steamers and ships moving from Calcutta to Varanasi on the way, all along the Ganga. They were carrying commodities, they were carrying passengers. Similarly, the northeast of India was also connected to the rest of the country through the waterways, through the Brahmaputra. And we also had historically a lot of movement on the eastern coast and western coast through various canal systems. So we have had a very rich history of use of waterways, but over a period, because of various reasons, I mean, the waterway could not keep up with the development in roads and railway infrastructure. The focus shifted. But as you're talking about the learning from there, the learning from there is it's possible to cross the length and breadth of the country using our waterways as an alternative to road and railways transportation system. And as we progress in the conversation further, I will tell you how we have been able to focus in the last decade on our waterways,
Absolutely.
how we have been able to grow them in terms of their numbers, in terms of their cargo movement and passenger movement.
Yeah, but
So, yeah.
when you are going back to something that we already had
Yeah,
in quite abundance, so how is the government looking at waterways in terms of its advantages, in terms of economy and the logistics part of it, vis-a-vis the other modes of transport?
So let me first give you some data points. I mean, what government has been able to achieve over the last decade in terms of waterways. So in 2004 and 5, we had about only 5 national waterways. In 2016, an act was passed in the parliament which took the number of national waterways from 5 to 111. That was a tremendous jump in the amount of navigable waterways we have. So the length of national waterways became 20,000 kilometers. The amount of cargo which was being carried in 2004 and 5 was about 18 million metric tons per annum. That has become last year 133 million metric tons. It's an increase of 7 times. So we have been able to achieve a growth rate of 20% plus CAGR. So that's the cargo movement part. The other pillars we also focus on the cruise tourism part of it.
Right.
So till about 2004 and 5, cruise movement was happening only on 3 waterways. Now cruise movement happens on 10 waterways. And government has identified about 38 cruise circuits on different waterways which we are going to operationalize. In fact, one of the landmark in that is Ganga Vilasi cruise, which is the longest river cruise in the world, which runs on NW1, that is Ganga, NW2, that is Brahmaputra, and crosses through Bangladesh. It's a landmark thing by itself. Thirdly, on the passenger transportation, the last year figures tell us we have been able to cross a figure of 16 million passengers moving through our waterways. And that figure is also understated because we are not able to capture data from all the other waterways also. So in terms of movement of cargo, in terms of movement of passengers, in terms of movement of cruise, there has been significant improvement. At the same time, government has set ambitious targets. Right now, when we look at the modal share of cargo moved by inland waterways, the figure is around 2%. So government has set up a target of achieving a modal share of 5% by 2030. Right. So right now we are at 133 million metric tons. The goal is to go up to 200 million metric tons in terms of cargo movement. So government has put in a lot of focus on development of waterways, and we have been given targets which are quantifiable, and we are on our way to achieve it also.
Right. Nicole, if I may ask you, what has been the contribution of waterways? You have a wealth of it, one of the most developed in the world. What is the contribution of the inland waterways to the economy of Netherlands as such? How important are they?
Now they are
from the
very,
economic point of view?
very important because the harbors, Rotterdam, Amsterdam, they are big harbors and they transport the goods, but also to the hinterland, so to Germany and further. So that's a very, in case of economic growth, is it very important, but it's also very important for the greenhouse gas emissions, because inland waterway, transport goods by ships that reduces the greenhouse gas emissions enormously. And I think, but I want to ask you, what is the potential in India for new build ships and new build ships to make them with alternative fuels so that the greenhouse gas emissions will reduce even more?
Well, and like even before you give the answer, like as a kind of a parallel question that emerges from this is that inland waterways will need a lot more onward connectivity, and we have Sagarmala, which is a very major portlet development that's been envisaged. A lot of work is happening there. A lot of investments have gone in. So how is the Indian the Inland Waterways Authority of India? How is it planning to integrate all of these highways that are coming up? You mentioned a very enormous number. So how is it all going to be integrated into the onward modes of transport, be it railways, roadways, or whatever? Especially given that so many ports and jetties are now coming up under Sagarmala.
Let me let me respond to first to Nicole. So as you rightly mentioned, there is a lot of focus on greening of inland waterways per se. Inland waterway transport, by definition itself, emits it less of emits less of carbon dioxide, and it's by itself is a green mode of transport. But within that also, how do we further reduce the emissions, make it greener? So as far as IWI is concerned, the authority is concerned, we already have deployed our first hydrogen vessel in Varanasi.
Yeah.
So that is already undergoing trials, and once the trials succeed, we plan to order more. So that's more like a demonstration. And we are also deploying deploying electric hybrid vessels. And 2 of them are already running; they have already been tested, and 6 more are about to come. They're more like demonstration. But as a large scale conversion, as a large scale operation to convert our fleet. So government is already working on a scheme called Harit Nauka, which is going to be a nationwide trigger for conversion of existing vessels into alternate fuels, transition fuels. It may be CNG, LNG, hydrogen, methanol, ammonia, and some of these technologies are still evolving. So we have got number of committees working on finalizing which technologies to use. So this scheme is an ambitious scheme, and the target is to convert about 10,000 vessels initially to begin with, and going forward at some stage we may come up with guidelines which restrict flying of vessels which are not running on green fuels. So it's an ambitious program, and government is very, very conscious, because if we have to achieve the target that India has set for itself, then this sector also has to decarbonize itself. So we are in that direction. The point double that you made about integration of inland waterways with other modes of transport, I think that's an extremely important point. So what we do is, as an authority, we are responsible for creating infrastructure on the waterways. So we have created our major terminals on NW1. So each of these terminal is connected to a national waterway. No, connected to a national highway already. For example, terminal in Varanasi, terminal in Sahibganj, terminal in Haldia. All these are already connected to national highways. We are also connecting them to railways. So already we have engaged a sister company called IPRCL. They are working on providing railway connectivity to all these terminals. But that's an important part. But here, the challenge is actually a bit different. I would be requesting Nicole to also highlight their experience in this. So challenge in this integration is the multimodal nature of the entire logistics operation, which requires multiple cargo handling, loading, unloading. So what happens in the process, even though waterways by themselves are the cheapest mode of transport, and the movement on waterways is much cheaper than road by almost 40%, 20% by railways, but the multimodal nature of this transaction makes it actually more expensive. So that is one issue we are tackling, and we are devising our own solutions. For example, we are developing freight villages, cargo aggregation hubs on the waterways to ensure that the multimodal nature reduces, the cargo handling operations reduces. But this is a challenge in the waterway movement because unlike Europe, we don't have industries along the waterways.
Right.
So that will take time to develop. I mean, we are working on that also, but it will take time to develop. So maybe this is something, Nicole, maybe you can throw a light on how you handle this part, the multimodal nature of the transportation, the cargo handling, loading, unloading.
Yeah, in the Netherlands and in Europe, we are looking at this, and by making hubs, there are plans to make hubs where the cargo handling can takes place, and yeah, uh, in the same time, we are looking how to do this on a sustainable way. And I can mention the example of zero emission by service, ZES, and that's one pilot project, and battery containers are swapped at the hubs, and in the hubs they're greenly filled with energy, and they're ships sailing along the route with batteries. Containers. And the good of a very interesting thing of this is that the energy itself is a service. Right. So that's, I think, an example, and we are looking to do more pilots like this, also with hydrogen, and we're in Europe also looking at ways how to address this.
Right.
So maybe we can work together and learn from each other.
Yeah, that's one question that I'll ask later as to. But in terms of, like, when you're talking about multimodal, and you invariably talk about multi-stakeholder environment, and that if you look at mega initiatives or infrastructure projects like these are often hard to find. That is one perhaps the challenge that one needs to overcome. So how as IWAI are you grappling with this problem of coordination among multiple parties across ministries and departments?
So as you rightly mentioned, a large-scale inland waterways transport operation will definitely involve multiple stakeholders, particularly the authority on one side, representing central government, and state governments on the other side, because we are a federal structure. So while we regulate the water side, the land side is actually with the state governments all the time. So one solution to this has been evolved in the ministry by the Government of India. We have something called Inland Waterway Development Council, IWDC. In this IWDC, all the state governments are members, and ministry is the convener, and we have got other central ministries also as a part of the structure. So we meet under the chairmanship of Honorable Minister of Shipping and Port, and we discuss issues with each of the states, and they also discuss with us. So that's an institutional structure to resolve all the issues. So a lot of work happens there. And secondly, in general, we have also evolved a standard template on how to interact with each state. So there are standard memorandum of understanding where we basically divide our role and responsibilities. We as the authority, we take care of the water side. And the state governments, they take care of the land side. And the floating part is taken care by the private sector. So it's an established mechanism, and it has been working quite well so far.
Right, and importantly, this also has a very major dimension for regional connectivity, and maybe larger regional connectivity. We already have protocols with Bangladesh and Myanmar, to ease of movement towards the northeast. How are they progressing, and what is the greater role of regional cooperation in this matrix? And if I can ask Nicole, that what are the similarly what is the potential of a Netherlands-India partnership or a collaboration in this respect?
Yeah, I think
so. Maybe Vijayji, you can talk about, and then Nicole.
Yeah, sure. So as you rightly mentioned, with Bangladesh, we have got India-Bangladesh protocol routes, which are already working. So there are 10 of such routes, out of which 4 are already operational. 2 more have already been tested. They have to be approved by Bangladesh. I think that movement will also start shortly. And we have regular institutional structures where meetings takes place at the level of honorable ministers, meeting happens at secretary level, meeting happens at my level in my counterpart in Bangladesh. So this is a very well structured mechanism, and we already are transporting quite a large amount of goods through this movement. This is a regular movement, and lot of stone chips, lot of fly ash material goes from India, is supplied to Bangladesh for the cement factory. So those movements are regular. And in a larger setup, as you said, we are looking at what we call a regional waterway grid, RWG. So RWG will connect India to Bangladesh, it will connect India to Nepal, India to Bhutan, India to Myanmar. So basic agreements with each of them individually are already in place. And some of these movements will be multimodal in nature. For example, Nepal is landlocked, Bhutan is landlocked. So for Nepal, our terminals on National Waterway 1 will provide the waterway access. From there, goods will move through road. And those agreements are in place. Similarly, for Bhutan, our terminals in Northeast will provide access and goods will move through road. So those movements, their components are already in place, but we are working at an overarching regional waterway grid structure. So those studies have been started at a technical level, at a traffic level. So soon I think we will see a lot of progress on that.
Right. Thank you so much. And Nicole, one final question to you. So what is the potential of India-Netherlands collaboration? What India can gain, and likewise what Netherlands can take back?
Yes, I think it's that are very good chances here to build a consortium with knowledge institutes, but also with shipyards and financial institutes to make a couple of pilot projects. We are from the ships, hydrodynamic part, so we can bring that as marine, but a lot of different Dutch has their own strength, and if we work together, we can do a couple of pilot projects and to show that it's possible to build in India new builds and with as less as greenhouse gas as possible. And I think that's my dream, to do that to build that consortium and to roll this out.
So thank you so much. So on this note of collaboration and cooperation, I think let's end this conversation here. We must continue this as governments, as civil society, as private sector, in the next edition of Sagar Manthan, the Great Oceans Dialogue, next year. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.